Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. I'm very excited to be here with you all today. Looks like we have a great turnout. My name is Frank Ferris. I am the head of product solutions here at Coefficient. I've been with the company for about 4 years now, and I basically came in because I desperately needed a tool like Coefficient throughout my career. I've always worked as an analyst, especially with spreadsheets, and I got tired of exporting CSVs from Salesforce, QuickBooks, and other business systems into Google Sheets and Excel. I came across Coefficient about 4 years ago, and I was just immediately convinced I needed to be part of this story. So I'm very excited to be leading the webinar today and showing you all some of how you can automate your QuickBooks consolidation reporting using Coefficient in both Google Sheets and Excel. I am originally from Toronto, Canada, but I am now based in the Bay Area where Coefficient's main office is. I'd love to hear in the chat where all of you are joining from today if you want to drop that in as well. The topic, of course, is QuickBooks consolidation. We have a great turnout today. I've already reached out to many of you on the call with some questions, so I have an idea of who's attending. We have a good mix of both fractional CFOs who are looking to build similar reports for all the clients across the portfolio. We also have some people joining who are not a fractional CFO, but there may be a CFO or another finance role in a large organization or entity where you have multiple QuickBooks orgs within your company, maybe subsidiaries, and you want to be able to combine all of their financial reporting into one single view. We're going to tackle exactly those two types of use cases today on the call. I wear many hats in my role at Coefficient, but the one thing I've never done is I've never been a fractional CFO. I've never been a CFO at all. So I'm very fortunate to have our guest joining us today, Hurley Fox from Fox and Partners. I've had the pleasure to meet Hurley over the past couple of weeks, learn about some of his use cases and some of the amazing things that he's built out for his portfolio of clients at Fox and Partners. And with that, Hurley, I turn it over to you, and I'd love to hear a bit of your introduction, and then we'll get into some of your growth story and how you've leveraged Coefficient so far.
City, and I'm the owner of Fox and Partners, and we're a 14-person fractional accounting and CFO firm representing a few hundred businesses all across the country in lots of different industries.
Excellent. And thanks again so much for joining. I'm really excited for this. Hurley, I'm going to start off. I'm going to put you on the spot with a controversial question in the finance world. Google Sheets or Excel? And everyone else on Zoom, I'd love if you also chime in. Coefficient supports both, so there's no wrong answer. I grew up on Excel myself, but I'm Google Sheets heavy these days.
I would second what you were just saying. Is we early on it was a lot of Excel and primarily using Excel, and Google Sheets has improved over time. And then a lot of our clients were in Google and have Google and were using Sheets, and so it became a lot easier for um, working together or commenting back and forth or kind of going back and forth with them to use Sheets. And so with Coefficient, especially, it was very easy to plug in. And so now we use Excel for some things, but we're predominantly using Google Sheets for reports for our clients.
Another one converted over to Google Sheets. Love to hear it. Um, seen a mix of answers in the chat, and I won't be keeping an eye on the chat the whole time, but my team will let me know if so. Feel free to drop questions in there throughout, and Hurley and I will try to cover them. Very quickly, here's our agenda for the day. So we're going to talk about Hurley's growth story in just half a second here. And then we're going to follow that up by getting a little technical. We got a lot of great finance folks on the call who love Excel. So we're going to get live into Google Sheets, Excel, Coefficient, and show you what it actually looks like to set up some of these automated flows, serve multiple clients at a time, work with organizations that have multiple QuickBooks entities. Starting off, so big theme today is the multi-entity manual mess. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the pain points outlined here. And Hurley, I'll kick it back to you. Maybe you can tell us at this point a bit of your story, discovering Coefficient and kind of the pain before and how you resolved that.
Yeah, yeah. So, a few of the pain points, especially earlier on, was we had some clients in QuickBooks Desktop with many different entities that we were working with them on. And so, being able to get all that information out to in Excel or Google Sheets to have it all in one place took a lot of time. We were exporting from desktop in P&L, balance sheet, bringing it on, uploading it, making sure that, nothing changed. If they're intercompany stuff that they matched, it just took a long time. And then even the clients that had QuickBooks Online, we were kind of doing some custom reporting for them where they had multiple entities, and so we had to, export those one by one and cross-check that and look to see, again, if anything else had changed. And we were looking at, other products and things that we could do, and some of them were really expensive, and they still didn't allow us to do some of the customization that we would have liked. In our reporting and what we gave to our clients. And so then Mac actually, who's here, who works with us at Fox and Partners, found Coefficient, and we immediately started plugging that in for all of the QuickBooks Online clients. Of essentially in Google Sheets, we could automatically connect to their QuickBooks Online, and we had the P&L balance sheet in Google Sheets just there, and we could pipe in multiple entities in one Google Sheets just with different tabs for each one. You can create, you can export a P&L, you can export P&L by month, you can export whatever reports in QuickBooks, you can get that essentially into Sheets. And so once it was in Sheets, it allowed us to not have the manual exports, but it was just automatically there. And we can set it up to export, every day, every week, whatever. And for the companies that had multiple entities, or there was a lot of intercompany things, we could A, get it all into one place, and then B, we could set up tabs. I know a couple people are asking about intercompany transactions and things like that. We could set up tabs to take care of the intercompany transactions or proofs to say, okay, company A lent company B money. Does that same dollar amount show on both books? And we can have an automatic proof where on the kind of proof tab that we set up, it highlights red or green based on if those numbers match. And then on the client side, they have a online dashboard because again, once we get all the data into Google Sheets in this case, that's the time consuming part. Then it's more fun and we can play around with creating certain reports or highlighting certain things, or we're building custom reports for the clients. And then the client could have access to this Google Sheet. They could ask questions or comments in Google Sheet. And so for the client, it was right there, and they didn't have to log into a number of different QuickBooks, or if they have different reporting softwares. Everything was in one place for all their companies, and it was updated every single day or week depending on the client. And so then this also allowed us to take a lot of the desktop clients, and with some of the stuff that QuickBooks has changed in the last few months, bring a lot of those over into QuickBooks Online, which again, once it's online, we can connect it to Google Sheets using Coefficient. Once it's in Google Sheets, it essentially allows us, the data's there, and we can, play ball, so to speak.
Love it. What a story. And I see our slide here says a 12-person team. You mentioned 14, so you guys must be
We have
doing
a
well.
couple more since then.
You've
Yeah.
grown since then. Love to hear it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Alrighty then. Thanks for setting the stage with that context. We're gonna dive into Excel and Google Sheets as promised now. So Coefficient works fully in both. Since the call today is largely focused on the Google Sheets use case, I'm going to spend a lot of our time there. But rest assured, you can do all of this in Excel as well. I'm happy to cover that if there's time. So without further ado, let's open up, swap browsers here. And we have, great turnout for the call today. Some familiar faces, some customers, but also I bet we have some people who have never heard of Coefficient before. So I'm just going to make sure we're all on the same page with what a Coefficient import looks like before we get into the really fun, exciting stuff of consolidating multiple entities in a single spreadsheet. Here, this view is what your Coefficient imports will generally look like. And if you're a slightly older Coefficient customer, it might look a little bit different. So we've revamped our QuickBooks connector over the past few months. We've been gradually rolling that out. So if this looks just slightly different, that's why. Just to give you a few examples, this is a general ledger coming in. You can see when it was last updated up here, all your data coming in down below. This is a sample of account details, P&L statements coming in. So nothing you're unfamiliar with seeing in QuickBooks already, or you're probably exporting these as CSVs. This is what it looks like once you get it into Google Sheets with Coefficient. When we're creating an import like this, again, just so we're all on the same page, Coefficient is an extension for both Google Sheets and Excel. So it'll live in the top Excel ribbon or in Google Sheets in this extensions menu here. this brings us effectively to the Coefficient homepage. So I can see these 4 import tabs that I've set up. I could click in if I want to edit them or refresh them, set a schedule. But generally, you just start from scratch. So you say import from QuickBooks. So I'm already connected to a QuickBooks Sandbox account. The very first time you do this, it just opens your browser. You log in once, you're authenticated forever. You'll see other systems down here below. So Coefficient also connects to 100 plus other business systems at this point. We're only talking about QuickBooks today. We can always offer private demos if you have other use cases. But good to keep in mind, we also connect to your Stripe, your ChargeBee, your CRMs, your data warehouses as well. From QuickBooks, you can import either an existing report or from objects and fields. So a report is definitely the easiest way to get started. We can do a general ledger here, for example. You can change the filters, the time frame. We won't get into all those details right now because that's pretty straightforward for all of you, I think. And then that'll create a new tab in our workbook, just like the ones we were looking at a second ago. And then here's really the bread and butter, right? Is set this up on an automatic refresh schedule. So you can do as frequently as once every hour. If this is the report you're sharing with a client, probably doesn't need to be updated more than once a day. You can set it to update at 3 a.m., something like that. And this will refresh. So whether you're sick, on holiday, whatever it may be, this will keep refreshing if you set that schedule. So your client can always access that most recent data. Alrighty. And Hurley, you touched on this a little bit, but just again, before Coefficient, how were you sharing this data with your clients? Was it a lot of CSV exports? How much time was it taking? I'd love to hear a bit about that.
As I'm sure a lot of people on this call can empathize with, it takes a lot of time to, especially if, I see one person is in QuickBooks Desktop, and so for us, like if a client was in QuickBooks Desktop, you'd have to remote into their desktop, get into their desktop, find the report you want, make sure that the numbers look good, then export it to that desktop, copy that over, bring it over to your desktop, then put it into the Excel or Google Sheet file, where essentially then you're taking that raw data and doing whatever you want with it. So, like I was just telling a client that we're actually moving some stuff around for them this week, that what takes me with some of our other clients and with Coefficient literally a second because we just hit refresh takes me 15 to 20 minutes to do if they're in desktop or if I'm manually exporting things.
Yeah, what a pitch. Love to hear it.
Yeah, and that's for each report or each client, right? So if you're running back and forth with in a bunch of different client files in a day, that adds up.
I hear you. That's the pain we're here to solve today. Awesome. Now that we're all on the same page about how to create an import, let's talk about why we're here today. So using multiple entities and how Coefficient can work with multiple QuickBooks orgs. So you might have seen back on that first import page, I was importing from client ABC. Now let's, so I could always, first of all, I could add a new QuickBooks org by going adding another one. You can see for some of my other connectors, I have multiple Salesforce instances and so on. One feature that works very nicely with this, so if you're building within a single Google Sheets spreadsheet file, I want to show you a great tip and trick. You'll see right now we have just 5 imports coming in. This P&L current fiscal year. So if I wanted to make a copy of this and maybe change this to QuickBooks org number 2, the trick that works nicely with that is if you duplicate any tab in Excel, Google Sheets, you'll see in just a second, copy of P&L this fiscal year will show up there. I can rename this, of course. Let's say P&L client 2. Now I've got 2 separate P&L statements coming in as separate tabs in my workbook. They're both showing up as unique standalone imports in the sidebar. And now I can simply click in, let's say change source, and I could add client 2's QuickBooks connection. In a second, I'll switch to my other Sandbox account where I have multiple QuickBooks orgs set up. And here you can see a list. You might have 20 different, you might have 100 different QuickBooks orgs you've created connections to with Coefficient. you'd see the full list here. You can just change it over. And as long as you're not working with, custom fields or something like that, as long as the same fields or reports exist in both orgs, you can just switch it over seamlessly in a couple seconds. So this gets us to the first way of kind of consolidating data in one report. I'm going to call this level one consolidation. So this is typically the first way that our customers figure out they can start consolidating data. It really is as simple as this. You might have two P&L statements, and you just want maybe a summarized consolidated view. So I don't need to tell you all Excel formulas. You're all experts, I'm sure. But you could really set up any kind of custom summary views. So maybe just getting income level and adding in whether you do simple formulas, like simple addition. Obviously, many of you would prefer to do some advanced VLOOKUPs, some ifs, something like that. I'm just pointing out the obvious here to start, maybe, but the most basic way to set up a consolidation where we're just adding two lines from two different QuickBooks orgs, just to join it in some custom summary view like this. You could also, in other cases, customers will actually essentially repeat these P&L statements all in one tab. So if you prefer to work with that kind of setup, you might do something where you have customer one, drag down a ton of rows, and then you're using, and this is back to why Hurley and I prefer Google Sheets. One thing I love about Google Sheets, I think Excel's gotten a bit better about this over the years, is array formulas and query just work so much better and seamlessly in Google Sheets. But very simple to just grab an array like this. It looks a little raw and detailed here, but now I can put customer two down below, and then I can build my pivot tables or sum ifs off of a combined single tab view like this. The other way to do it, and for a lot of more advanced analysis, you'll like this option. This is probably my preferred way to do this often, is switch tabs here. Here we're doing an import of our entire transaction list for a time period, all of 2025 in this case. And again, I've done that same trick where I set up a transactions detailed import for company one. I duplicated the tab, changed my source to company two, and here we are, company two. If I want to consolidate both of these tabs into a third tab, what I'm calling transactions consolidated, again, here I'm using a more advanced version of array formulas and query to repeat company one for every row that exists in that company one tab, and then label company two for every row that exists in that company two tab. So you end up with a big raw data table like this, where it's company one, company two, and then all the details coming in. What I love about this, and you're all probably one step ahead of me here, is you can then obviously use this as a data set to build some really great models. So whether you want to insert a pivot table, start building off of this, or if you want to write your own sum ifs, whatever it may be, we can do all of that, and simply aggregating by company name to get all of our details coming in here. All right. That's what I'm calling for today, level one consolidation. So this is especially useful for those of you that work in a large entity where you have multiple orgs and you want all of your clients' data in one single Google Sheet file. Alternatively, if you're a fractional CFO and I'm sure you're not sharing one client's data with the other, but if you want to build your own consolidated view where you have all of your own, a personal spreadsheet for yourself with multiple orgs coming into one spreadsheet, this would be the way that you would go about setting that up.
And one example of where even just a simple consolidation is really helpful for us. We have a lot of clients who own lots of real estate properties. And so every property is its own business, has its own financials, even though there's not a lot of activity in each one. But for one client, just in one view or on one tab to be able to see how all, let's say, 20 of their properties or businesses are doing, even just simply of, okay, well, what was my total rent, or how many tenants didn't pay rent, or whatever the question is they're asking. Again, there's not a lot of transactions each one, but and it's not that complicated, but it gives them a quick view of, okay, hey, I have 20 properties. Here's how we're doing. Great, I can go on to the next month.
Love that. And please keep chiming in with examples. I'm sure the folks on the call have a lot to learn from that growth story and your use cases. Alrighty, we're gonna we're gonna swap over here. Hurley and his team. I know we also have Mac. I can see helping out in the chat, so appreciate you, Mac. Hurley and Mac have been very generous and actually shared a couple of their real templates that they've set up for some customers. This is all anonymized fake data, of course. We're very careful about that. But just to give you a bit of a visual sense of what teams like this are building out for their clients, how they're sharing this real-time data. So far, we've just looked at that more raw detailed data. Financial analysts might love that, but you probably want to share something pretty easy to read with your clients. So we've got two primary dashboards here and some additional tabs coming in. I'm just going to quickly give kind of that, go through the tabs so you can all see what is included. What I love about these types of reports is, especially if you're sharing with a customer, we see sometimes coefficient customers will set these up. Sometimes they only want to share a final dashboard tab with their clients. They don't want to confuse them by showing them the underlying P&L statements, whatever it may be. Other folks will want to share that. So in this case, kind of have the best of both worlds. We also are including these actual coefficient imports coming in, so the client can see those details if they want. You could, of course, hide these tabs if you don't want to necessarily expose that. So this is template one. And we're gonna share these templates out with everyone on the call today. So if you like what you're seeing, you'll be able to build something similar yourself. And template number two. Hurley, do you want to share any context about how you're using these two templates?
Well, I would say one of the things that has separate, because we've looked at other tools, and one of the things that was nice for us about Coefficient is, yes, we've built it's templates that, are ballparks of what we're looking at today. But what's really great about the tool is it gets the data into Google Sheets, and then from Google Sheets, we can really customize it as we want. Because as again, I'm sure a lot of people on this call can relate to, every client wants something different or asks a question. It's like, oh, okay, well, you want to see a number or a ratio or something that, we haven't had requested before. And so we can add those custom reports, numbers, whatever, really easily because we're just building it in Google Sheets versus there are some other products that in some cases might do more of that legwork for you of like, hey, they built the dashboard, but it was much more difficult for us to customize it. And so if a client had a request or there was something different about that business or whatever, it was a lot more difficult to work around. And so it's easier for us to build kind of a base templates, which are some of the stuff that we're looking at today. And then from there say, okay, now this client's requesting this, or this client wants to have this, or this business is a little different because of this. And so then we could easily build those kind of extra boxes or extra tabs or other reports or comments or whatever it was that they were asking for, fairly easily. And then they have their own template that's very customized to them and exactly what they're looking for. And again, next month, they're probably going to ask for something new or something different. And so you can add that fairly easily. So the templates are great. Once you've built it out, you can create the same view for another client fairly easily. But what's really nice is it gets the data to where you need it to be to then mold around what you and your client are looking for.
Awesome. And yeah, you really touched on it. Like I can hear that how clients probably change what they want often, and that's probably part of the beauty of building it all in a spreadsheet where you just have literally unlimited flexibility in terms of what type of view you can set up.
Yeah, and this report, like let's say you and I were a client now talking, this report is essentially a great, like we're going into a meeting and we're talking once a week, once a month, whatever it is, and this report is kind of what we're looking at, what we're kind of having dialogue about back and forth, right? And so questions are going to come up, or they're going to, oh, okay, great, so I saw this, but can I see a deeper dive into what the product sales are, or actually, can I see, the last 12 months of product sales, or year over year, or quarter over quarter, or anything like that. Because hey, in that conversation, that question or that comment came up. It's like, okay, great, yes, we can create that for you in a separate view. Or like again, we see here that there's multiple budgets, right? That client might want to say, okay, what happens if I grow 5% this year, or 10%, or I hire a few people? And so we can create different scenarios. And again, we're building that and creating tabs to do that, but then it allows you to, you know, give a really customized report and almost tool while you're working together with your clients or with your team to kind of ping pong ideas back and forth.
I love that. Yeah, it's not just a report, it's a tool. And you guys really took that, uh, like did a great job with that. I love that you've put like self-serve filters on this and stuff. It's not just like a single report someone can just view. They
Right.
can actually adjust these. In other cases, you might have, I think like in one of these, we also had budget input tabs. So whether you guys are filling this in or a client fills this in, again, you get that flexibility of a spreadsheet. Or this could be like scenarios where a client can adjust, what does 10% growth look like?
Yeah. And again, we're doing that together with them, right? Like this is a tool. It's not just a static report of a PDF of, okay, great. Hey, here's your report. I'll see you next month. It's, hey, look, here's a lot of the data visually represented in a way that the client can understand and likes, answering their kind of key questions from the last month or key kind of information that they were looking for. But okay, now that they have it, we want to know more. We want to have other questions. And so, okay, we're just kind of building it out and it's growing and evolving as the relationship with the client grows and evolves. And again, that's all kind of the fun stuff. The annoying part is making sure A, the data is clean and good, and then B, getting the data into kind of the playground.
The fun stuff. Love it. Um, Alrighty. I've got another tip here. So a few minutes ago, we looked at building, consolidating within a single Google Sheet file. When you're building out a template like this for a customer, another great trick is the ability to actually duplicate across Google Sheet files. So if you're building in Hurley's case, I know from our previous conversation, like a lot of their clients are so different that they're really building unique bespoke templates for each one. In a lot of our customers' cases, they do like to reuse assets. So they might build as a one-time thing a beautiful dashboard like this, many tabs, many imports set up. And just as we talked about earlier, how you can duplicate a coefficient tab and it'll duplicate the coefficient import settings with it. You can also duplicate an entire Google Sheet or Excel file. So if we go make a copy, save a copy of this, it'll actually also duplicate all the coefficient imports in the sidebar of that new Google Sheet file as well. That's now a standalone Google Sheet file with its own standalone import, standalone schedule. You can simply change all of those imports to be filtered on client 2 as your data source instead of client 1 or client 20, client 100, however many you're working with, and really quickly spin those up. And that kind of leads into, I'm going to call level 3. This is a bit of an internal secret we don't talk about too much, but we do share it with especially fractional CFOs who are trying to build up tons of these templates at scale. So especially, you have hundreds of clients, you've built some amazing internal assets like these dashboards. And every time you onboard a new client, you want to give them value very quickly by just spinning up their own unique copy of something like this. So this is a bit of a view behind the curtain coefficient. But some of you are familiar with coefficient templates. So on our website, we have hundreds of these templates that connect to QuickBooks, Salesforce, other systems. You save a copy and it instantly replaces all of the QuickBooks data with your own org in a couple seconds. So you can use the same internal technique we use for that, which is effectively to just have a named range cell. So I could take any cell in here, probably on a hidden tab, I would do it. And you just want to call it coef TPL name. Maybe we'll make a more user-friendly version of this. This is a bit of an advanced tip just for all of you joining today. But if you have this specific named range, and then you can give the template a name in that cell if you want, then Coefficient will know that this is meant to be a template. And what does that actually do? That opens up a bit of magic where now if I make a copy of this spreadsheet, let's call it template, and we'll make this one for client 55, let's say. And of course, normally you would clear out all the data before you start duplicating a template just so that your next customer can't go back into version history and maybe see previous copies. But what's beautiful here is the very first time you launch Coefficient on this copy of your template file, Coefficient will detect that this is a template. So instead of showing you that regular screen, we'll show you this special screen. Finish setting up your dashboard, connect to QuickBooks. If you have multiple QuickBooks orgs, as I do in this account. You can see here I have 6 different orgs. I should give these better names like client one, client two, so I can tell them apart. And but I can choose a different org than I was originally using. QuickBooks is now connected. I click done, and you'll see all of the imports that are in this template are already refreshing. So the dashboard is going to clear, all the data has been wiped. And now we have, this is a big template. We got probably at least 10 imports coming in here. These are all refreshing. Hopefully our new sandbox has enough data to make the dashboard look pretty. So this is really scaling the use of templates for your clients to the next level, where you could literally spin up 100 of these in an hour or so using this trick. Some charts aren't coming in as nicely. Maybe the sandbox has just a bit less data for some time periods, but you can see everything else is refreshed for that new org that we've filtered on here. Hurley, any comments or thoughts on that? It sounds like you're not using this type of technique. It might not be as applicable for your industry. Is that fair?
Yeah, we end up doing, a lot of custom work based on the industry and or client. But again, we've now used the tool enough where you do get more comfortable with it and you can understand, okay, hey, here's how to, we're building reports a lot more quickly today than we were a year ago. Um, so, and what's nice is, kind of another benefit to being able to pull the data into a Google Sheets or an Excel is clients are typically a lot more comfortable going into Google Sheets than QuickBooks. So, for example, right? Or like figuring out, okay, well, it's another login for them, or okay, how to use the reports. It's a lot easier for them to be like, okay, well, I have a Google login and I know where this goes, or I can, favorite the sheet on my bookmarks page, and so they can go there. And then, so the other day we had one client who wanted to see their expenses by category and also by vendor. And so, took a little time, but we were able to build that report where now they can go to, the tabs that they know. And we were like highlighting in yellow for them of like, hey, this is essentially what you wanted. And they can go there and just by, clicking down some things and using something that they're very comfortable with, they can kind of see again the data that they wanted and they can play around with it instead of having to learn QuickBooks or NetSuite or Xero or whatever it is that, the accounting software, because, the owner or the the non-finance side of the team typically is not super comfortable in the accounting. So this allows that to, bridge the gap between operations or ownership and finance and accounting.
Amazing. And we're getting just about to the point where we're gonna jump into some Q&A. Want to share a couple final tips and tricks that go nicely with this. So of course we'll share these templates. You can steal some of these beautiful charts, repurpose them, and along with that, I'll also mention if you haven't come across this already, Coefficient has a pretty cool Google Sheets chart gallery resource we've put together over time. Um, this we're quite proud of. We have, I think, over 100 charts in here, only for Google Sheets, not for Excel yet. But if you are trying to build dashboards that really impress your clients, that just look beautiful, this is a free resource. You can just come, copy and paste charts from here into dashboards you're building up for clients. They should be pretty impressed. And I think Hannah's shared a link to that in the chat. So grab yourself a free copy if you're interested. We are going to now get into Q&A. While we do that, we're going to do something a little experimental with you all to thank you for joining, and probably just show you some of the latest and greatest coming out of Coefficient. So we're really just scratching the surface of what Coefficient can do in today's call. We haven't, even within QuickBooks, we haven't talked about QuickBooks writebacks. So you can also bulk create journal entries, bulk update invoices in QuickBooks from Google Sheets or Excel. Sometimes that's also useful to give your clients the power to make changes in a spreadsheet that you control. They can make some edits, you can push it back, or vice versa, where you make the changes in Google Sheets and push it to their org. Again, you might have something, we didn't talk about it too much on the call today, but besides these types of templates we've looked at, which are more for the reporting side, Hurley and I were also talking about the use case for building out something like an audit template where you could have a very similar view. You already have your pre-configured import setup. Every time you onboard a new client, you just save a copy of that spreadsheet. It imports all their fundamental reports, maybe some raw transaction data, and you have formulas set up ahead of time to do an audit of that as a good starting point to find out where your client is. Those are a couple features. The latest and greatest with Coefficient is really on the AI side of things. So we're getting a lot of questions, have been for a while now, about how can fractional CFOs, accountants, others start utilizing things like ChatGPT, AI in general to automate more of their workflows. It's a hot topic. Everyone's trying to do it. Everyone's trying to find the right way. And so for spreadsheet users, Coefficient's built and is really developing this now even further. Some really elegant ways to use AI in your spreadsheets. Some of what you're seeing now, I will give a disclosure, is not what you'll see if you open up Coefficient today. So this top section here, this is in my personal Coefficient account. Of course, they give me the early access, but you can see I can use this to instantly clean up data. Convert my dates from messy date time values to clean date values. Write those complicated query formulas you hate writing for you. Those are just the basic elements. You can also build web dashboards that look more like a website someone's visiting. So if you don't want to share, spreadsheets directly with a client, those are all options. We're going to take this for a little spin today. My team tells me it's risky to do a live demo of AI features on a live demo call, but we're going to try it out. Cool use case here is actually telling this Sheets assistant. We have some options here already if you want to just tell it, create me a chart, whatever. That's probably too basic for you spreadsheet experts on the call. But maybe we want to consolidate these 3 company P&L statements we have into a single view. Some of these might have account names that are similar but slightly different. And we want to get some AI assistance to convert these all into consistent titles. So I can just give Coefficient Sheets Assistant here any prompt. So we can say, let's say, consolidate my 3 company P&L import tabs into one single tab. I could go ahead and do this. I'm pretty sure if I do this, it'll convert that into not formulas necessarily. It might not. So I'm just going to give a little bit of extra specification that I want formulas and I don't just want Coefficient Sheets Assistant to add it up for me as a one-time thing. So we'll just add here, use formulas so that the consolidated tab will stay up to date, even as the 3 P&L tabs change over time, including if new rows, new columns get added over time. A little redundant. I'm being a little extra safe because of the live demo call. Of course, this might take 30 seconds, it might take a minute. So we're gonna let this run and hop into Q&A. I know the chat has been thriving. I can't keep up with it. Maybe someone from our team can let me know. Do we have any high level questions that Hurley and I can talk about live, especially questions for Hurley, because I imagine we're probably answering a lot of the technical Coefficient questions in the chat.
I see a couple that I think are just it's I think somebody might have answered that because that's a lot of chat, but this really just allows you to get the data from where the accounting is into Excel or Google Sheets to then manipulate it as you want, right? And then you can build certain tabs or certain reports that do the consolidation once you've built that. And again, you're not changing the chart of accounts all that much in the entities. And again, we've built proof tabs that allow us to, if something were to change, we can refresh it and it kind of highlights red for us, or it pulls out, hey, this is what's different, or hey, this is what you need to take a look at to see if something broke or something doesn't work. We then make those tweaks in the reports. And then, again, we can run it and then the consolidation happens or the dashboards happen or whatever. So it may take a few other tabs and a little bit of manual work up front. but we have preferred that to having it done almost for us, but then not having the, ability to customize or whatever it is. So for us, it was just really important to be able to get the data seamlessly into Sheets, and then we can kind of do what we want with it.
Frank, there's also a couple of folks asking about automatically filtering out intercompany transactions. It might be worth answering live.
Well, coefficient won't, but we can build. I mean, what we do is we've built tabs that do that for us. But the coefficient itself doesn't automatically do that. And then just one other question that I just saw pop up: does the consulting firm or the client both need a coefficient license? No, we have the license. The clients don't. So you don't both need a license because
Yeah,
we're
those are
using
the
the license on the Google Sheet to pull in the data. So like that's the sheet has the license and is being able to pull in the data, and then whoever has that sheet can do that.
and we have a fair bit of flexibility in some of our licensing options there. So we do see some of our customers going both approaches. In some cases, they'll get their clients to also get their own licenses if the clients want to also have the capability to build themselves, or maybe the clients are also importing from Salesforce and Stripe and blending data. Sometimes they do that. In most cases with fractional CFOs, it's the same as Hurley, where it's just the CFO that's licensed. And Hurley, I'm curious, in a lot of cases, customers of our customers don't even know that coefficient is part of the flow. Is that often the case with your spreadsheets?
That yes. Yep. And even though I mean some of them have seen it and they're not refreshing it and playing around with it. And a lot of times we have the client have, like comment only access just because we have had instances in the past where, you do all this work of building out these formulas and setting stuff up and then, they go and break it. And so we try to limit the ability to do that.
Yeah, and thank God for version history. Another
Yes.
thing, I'd say Google Sheets is a little ahead of Excel on. Excel does have that now, but Google is just great. Um,
Frank,
quick,
there's another question from Goran. What suggestions do you have regarding multi-currency?
yeah. So, Early, do you typically deal with multiple currency orgs
We
or?
don't, we don't, we've had a couple clients in the past, like 5+ years ago, and it was quite a bit different and a good bit of work, and so we now just do domestic. I know that QuickBooks itself does have multi-currency reports, and so I don't know if Coefficient can be able to pull that from QuickBooks Online. Um, and I would have to see the specific company, but like Hannah, if we want to put maybe I'll put my email in the chat, just because if we, I'm happy to talk to anybody kind of offline. If we see the specific uh, accounting file or report you're looking for, we can, try to help you with a suggestion of, how to get the answers or data in a view that, you want to be able to use.
Nice.
Um, I just see Aaron's question real quick. What are some of the most common? Yep, there's my email, hurley@foxpartners.com. Everybody reach out to me if you have any questions or want to look at stuff one-on-one. We're happy to like get on a Zoom with you in half an hour, look at it and kind of give you some tips and tricks if we can. Because for us, it's been really beneficial and it's nice to, if we can alleviate some headaches, we're happy to do so. Aaron's question, what are some of the most common QB reports that are used to set up these templates? Are they mostly standard QuickBooks reports? Primarily, yes. From in terms of the reports that we're pulling directly from QuickBooks are all standard QuickBooks reports. We don't do any custom QuickBooks reports. We're doing all the custom stuff in Google Sheets.
Great. And yeah, there are some multi-currency reports you can definitely access with Coefficient. Back to that question. I'm not deeply familiar with them myself. The other thing we sometimes see customers do is Google Sheets is quite good at doing Google Finance formulas to get conversion rates for any point in time. Um, Obviously, the trade-off is sometimes those Google's exchange rates won't exactly match what QuickBooks has, so you need to be aware of that, but it can be an option sometimes if you want to get at least a very, very close idea for how those rates would convert.
Yeah, but as Goran says, it is a mess. Yeah, it was a mess, and so we decided to stay away. So sorry, I can't be more helpful, Goran.
Maybe something we should take a closer look at how we can make it easier for you all if you're turning down clients because of it. Definitely sounds like a mess. We'll we'll take a quick look here at where Sheets Assistant has gotten us to. So you can see it's just kind of thinking through. This is like if you're familiar with ChatGPT, you can see it's thinking through the logic. It asked me at one point, you might have seen me click on just what type of consolidation I want to do. I asked for all three in a single consolidated tab. It's giving me some logic on how it thinks this through, how it's combining different accounts, and it's outputted this consolidated P&L tab over here. So again, some of this is new. Sheets Assistant, you'll have access to already. Some of the newer AI features that you saw on my original screens, like clean and transform, enriching data, building web app dashboards. A lot of that is still in alpha testing internally, but keep an eye out. That's definitely the direction we're heading in. And if you're looking for ways to use AI within your org, we would love to talk and help get you started with that soon. Just gonna skim for some of the latest questions coming in. Oh, and you can see it's kind of cool. You can see in my screen share, Sheets Assistant is still working, so it's doing some formatting there. I love just watching it build in real time. Um, any other questions coming in?
Is there a
Frank,
reporting coefficient that you can
Oh,
pull to see how much of the 5,000 rows limit or how many refreshes you've used on your account? Not sure.
just see how much.
If that's
Oh, I
relevant.
see. I see. With so for this is getting into coefficient licensing. So as you look at our pricing, there are different numbers of refreshes you can do at a time. So in the coefficient sidebar, when you're creating imports, if you are on our top tier plans, you don't have limits. On some of the plans you do, and you would see as you're creating new imports, it'll always tell you, you've used one of 500 refreshes for the month, or you've created so many imports. Um, so there's no specific report to see that, but you can always see it as you're creating. We'll give you a warning if you're getting close to that limit. How do we handle consolidation reporting when your client's chart of accounts doesn't lend itself to user-friendly view?
So, Aaron, great question. And this was one of the things that like years ago started us looking for different tools because just operating kind of within the client's chart of accounts and client's books was crazy, or their P&L was 5 pages, or and then they were very sensitive about, oh, I don't want a lot change or just whatever. And so what we've done is we take their chart of accounts, we essentially then build a map to say, okay, here's their chart of accounts. Here's what we want it to look like, right? Either from the P&L and balance sheet. So let's say there's 30 items that are in the chart of accounts and fairly messy, and we want to get that into like three different buckets, just as an example. We essentially take their chart of account data and we say, okay, if it is this, then go into this bucket. And so then we have our own P&L and essentially our kind of our newly mapped chart of accounts that then that's what we run the reports off of. So in some cases, like on the Google Sheet, we'll have the client's P&L, and it'll be rows and rows and rows, and then we'll have our P&L, and it'll be a really nice kind of cleaned up both from an aesthetic standpoint, but also from like a mapping standpoint. And then again, we're building another tab to proof to make sure, hey, we're catching all of those in case anything were to be added or anything were to be changed. But again, when we're onboarding, we kind of build that translation tab, and then it's not that much work of keeping it up, and so that's how we've kind of gotten around a client's messy chart of accounts. Happy to walk you through kind of specifically what we do. If you want to shoot me an email, we can look at any messy chart of accounts yourself with you. And then, I would also add another kind of benefit to Coefficient is we say to clients, hey, within 10 weeks, we'll get you, as long as you're responsive, we'll get you from whatever your books look like to perfectly clean books, right? And so when talking about, how we've scaled and how we've been able to continue to kind of add um, new clients is this tool working with a client has allowed us to get through the onboarding process much faster than we used to be able to. Because again, we're just shaving a lot of time off the exports and we can ask specific questions directly to the client and things like that.
Amazing. And we're somewhat over time. I see another question came in about intercompany transactions. We did cover that one a couple questions ago. So I think the person said they were in and out. So if you watch the recording, should get an idea. But effectively, Coefficient doesn't handle that directly, but you can solve that with spreadsheet formulas once you've imported all of your transactions. We're already a bit over time, and questions are slowly slowing down. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you again, everyone, so much for joining. It's been a pleasure, and thank you, Hurley, and the whole Fox team for collaborating with us on this. I think it was a super valuable session. I'll just reiterate again, we really just scratched the surface today of Coefficient. Besides QuickBooks, you can do much more in QuickBooks. You can also do much more in those hundreds plus other systems, Salesforce, data warehouses, everything else, especially powerful when you combine multiple business systems in one single spreadsheet file. Or if you have some clients using Stripe, some using ChargeBee, some using any other tool that might have an API. Try it out with Coefficient. If you want to see some of that in action, so some questions we didn't address today, some of those other data connectors, write backs to QuickBooks, maybe anything like that, please grab this link that's on the screen right now. And myself or someone else on our team would love to give you sort of that more personalized demo where you can really ask all your own questions. We can talk about your own unique business use cases and challenges, and we would love to do that. So with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks again, Hurley and team, and thanks everyone so much for attending.